Hi, and welcome to the Diablo podcast. I am your host, Xanth, and I am joined today by, of course, everyone's favorite necromancer, my lovely co-host, Nightball,
Oh, hi.
and noted for leader, noted whale, noted streamer, notably present, notably a nice guy, notably, I'm, I'm running out of things, and eventually I should just stop this, but it's been going
Notably
for so
notable.
long. Yeah, notably notable. Third parts.
Hello. I survived Florida, so you can add that to the list if you want to.
It's not impressive because Nineball does it every day.
Yeah, but he's way
I,
tougher than
I
me.
I I
So
have experience. I actually saw a coyote for like the first time, which is funny because what was it? You know, Mama and husband just moved to Florida. They saw a coyote like in their first month, and it took me 30 plus years to finally
Nice.
find one. Yeah.
Well, you survived. You're both survivors. I'm proud of you for that. Um, Now, we're not here to talk about the flora and fauna of Florida. We're here to, of course, talk Diablo. So we'll go through our recent play. Uh, we'll talk about probably the most universally beloved patch in Diablo history, the most recent campfire chat. Um, and then looking ahead, as we've now been digging into season one, what we're hoping season two brings. Um, and that'll be the show. So, season one kicked off last week, July 20th. Uh, I got a chance to dabble a little bit myself, playing hardcore, of course. I did manage to kill one character this weekend. Now, gentlemen, you would not know this. The Hall of Heroes has a cap. It is capped at 8. I filled that. And then with this new death, you don't get to choose how it populates. The newest death
Oh.
will take the place of the oldest death, which kind of sucks because I don't know, something about having your first character that ever died just sitting there. So like, oh yeah, I remember how stupid I was. Um, I thought that was a good idea. Nope. Uh, but that's gone. It has now just been replaced with this new character. Um, Unlike the Hall of Heroes that we had in Diablo 3, we could kind of go in and change it. So hopefully in the future that's an option that we have. But as they've got a few things to work out, which we'll get into, that may be coming much further down the road. So that was a little bit of a bummer. But I have been very much enjoying the season, playing around, trying to catch things, get that battle pass and all those fancy armors. What about you? What have you guys been doing in season one so far?
So far, I've been playing Minion Necro. It was kind of up in the air between playing like a Blood Lance or a Minion, and so I went with the more challenging of the two. I would say, because Blood Lance is actually like pretty cracked right now. Does look like a lot of fun. We were talking, Dirtwords and I were just talking about it before the show. Um, I I'm 57, 56. I don't even actually remember, and I was like literally playing while we were while we were discussing things in the pre-show segment. But yeah, I've been going through. I've been having fun. The malignant hearts are like game changers for the necromancer. It is huge like quality of life improvements. I absolutely love it. It's great, and I feel bad for the other classes because you
Now,
don't have as involved hearts as the like the necromancer does.
what if you are just listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, what you are not aware of is Nerdword's face. Now, Nerdwords, normally a beacon of positivity, grinning from ear to ear, is just
totally.
grizzled. He is he is growling at the mention of fun right now, I think. Um, Nerdwords, how's your season?
It's good. It is good, and it's more jealousy than anything because he's right, man. Like I'm playing with a necro buddy, and it is disgusting. Like The decrepify power is just nuts. I really like the auto corpse cast heart as well. It's really cool. Great for group play if you're playing with buddies, which I typically run with a group. So like just having, I mean, it's like having your own personal Cyclone Strike monk just running around with you, pulling stuff in everywhere. Now, mind you, it is kind of random, so it creates some interesting interactions with your team when, like, a bar's about to Hoda something, and all of a sudden Corpse Tendrils pulls them all away from the Hoda, which is a good time. But no, I've honestly had fun with the season. I do have a go figure. I have my gripes for sure, but has nothing to do with the nerfs so much. It's really specifically like just some weird choices made. But overall, I am having fun. I am running a different build, so I ran when D4 first launched. I ran. I was really kind of like bouncing around for different builds. I played in the beta a Hydra build that I was playing for a while, but Hydra got gutted pretty bad, so I had switched and played around with Arclash. I really enjoyed that build quite a bit. It felt like a critical mass build from the original Diablo 3 launch, so that was pretty fun. And then I swapped once I hit 100 to a Blizzard build to try to take down Uber Lilith. Never quite got there. I got her halfway through phase 2, but never quite got there before the inevitable nerfs happened, which made it even more challenging, right? So didn't get that achievement, which sucked. But with the new season, I didn't want to go down that road again. I also have a second Sork, hardcore Sork. Actually, I have a third Sork too. They were both running Ice Shards because Ice Shards was really fun. So I was like playing through with that. So this season, I didn't want to do those builds. I really wanted to try something completely different, especially with the nerfs and stuff. So I actually ran Chain Lightning with this season. And it definitely has its issues, but once you start to get certain powers, it comes online a bit better, feels a little bit more fluid. I got some upgrades last night that make it feel a lot better today, which is really, really good. But overall, I've enjoyed playing the Sork. But to say that, like, looking around at other classes with some envy is an understatement. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, especially like looking at the Druid, the Necro, the Rogue. Jesus, it's just, yeah, just if they didn't exist, I'd be like, hey, this is cool, right? But just playing with buddies and running around seeing stuff, it's like, wow, like that looks really fun, guys. Yay.
I mean, it's like the Necromancer literally just got a 7th skill slot with
Yeah.
The free curse.
Yeah.
That requires, when you get up to a sufficient level, it requires 0 enemies around.
Zero
So it's
enemies
just always
required.
on. Yeah, it
Yeah.
literally is just a 7th skill slot. And for playing a minion necro, which actually we'll talk about it in the developer stream, got a question about, minion necromancer feeling a little bit more limited because you really only have like 4 skill slots. And like the other 2, yeah, it makes sense because like the skeletons and the golem are there, but they don't feel as if they have as much impact as like corpse tendrils or the curse or anything like that. And so this is perfect. Oh, that's just it. Necro just needs a 7th skill slot. It's fine.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's been just a little while since we last chatted. We did a pre-season 1 show, and we got to experience the season. But in between that, before the season goes live, we get the mammoth patch that we've all been waiting for. 6,600 words, and all of them butchering the sorceress.
That's not true. That is so dramatic.
No, it
That's
is
not true.
not true. It is
No.
not. Now I think
They
with the
they
patch,
also they also nerfed Hoda barbs.
that's
Don't
true.
forget that.
Yeah, but play with one. Were they really nerfed? Anyway.
Uh, so I think what we saw with this patch, and what we were already starting to see pre-season 1, were some ridiculous numbers, right? We started to see billions of damage. And I think part of the goal was to claw that back so we didn't start emulating a little bit of Diablo 3. That being said, it's not an exact science. Sometimes things may not go according to plan. They might have overreached in certain areas, and not tried to draw up the things that they were hoping for in certain ones. So we got a patch 2 days before the season goes live, and I will say I think criticism is absolutely invaluable to Diablo, right? We have sat here and chatted for over a decade about this game, and over various points have been critical about it. And I think we will as we go into the patch. But I will say I was the most embarrassed I have been in a long time of this community during those couple days and even continuing. Um, I think there's criticism and then there's just vitriol for vitriol's sake. When you are going on Twitter and attacking developers, that's too far. And at any point, if you feel the need to personally harass somebody who makes a video game because you don't like the change, that's too much. Like, go out, create something, be constructive, but don't go that far. So it was bad. It was really bad. Um, and it's not to say that people can't be upset. You should be. You should be upset about certain things if they change what you might have liked. But just don't go that far. Don't be that guy. Um, that being said, what were your thoughts as you not only read the patch notes, but then immediately got to go in and play it? That is a nice change of pace to like see the changes and then immediately be able to test them to see how what sort of impact that they had. So what did you find as you tested, and how did you feel?
I mean, it was one of those ones, and as a noted fanboy and Blizzard shill, I will say that it's like I understood where they were coming from with a lot of the changes and nerfs, because damage scaling at the high end had to be addressed. With the overperformance of certain builds that could leverage, the various types of like damage buckets, and then they lifted kind of like the damage floor, like your base damages and stuff like that. But of course, it wasn't enough to compensate. The bad builds that really couldn't leverage like crit and vulnerability still couldn't leverage crit and vulnerability. They didn't get enough to bring them to bring them up to like say like a bone spear level. And bone spear, despite the nerfs, is still obscene. So it was like one of those ones where it's like it kind of like it kind of like felt bad because it was things that needed to be addressed, but on the high end it didn't address enough, and on the low end they weren't like there wasn't any really sort of compensation for it. Just some of the other changes with the experience, was kind of like it's like just kind of like weird. I guess we would later learn more context of that. Well, we nerfed XP because we're going to be increasing monster density, but like that's what the developers' comments in the patch notes are there for, and it wasn't mentioned. So it was kind of like you just had the rug pulled out from underneath you. There were some other things that it was like one of those ones that was also kind of strange to me. Everybody was complaining. I say everybody. There was a vocal minority of people that were complaining about monster scaling. I literally never had a problem with monster scaling to my level throughout the entire game. It never felt bad for me, though. I was playing like a Sever Necro, which was not the highest end, but still did really well. But a lot of people were complaining about it, so they addressed it. And they made it so that way the monster scaling will lag a bit. So as you get higher level, you'll begin to outscale the things that you're fighting. So that way you can feel, like more powerful. And then everybody was complaining because, oh, the monsters are lower level than me, so they don't give experience now. And it's just like, okay, you got what you wanted, and you're still unhappy.
No one wanted that.
Cool.
Literally nobody wanted that. I don't.
Yeah.
Even the vocal minority didn't want that. If they wanted, that's a whole different topic. But yeah, the scaling. The problem with scaling is that I thought the scaling was fine, right? But now it scales to where it's irrelevant, right? So now when you play the game, they might as well change the name of the game to Nightmare Sigil 4 because that's all they fucking want you to do. That's all they want you to do. There's like even going into the PvP zones, you're not gonna get XP there anymore the way you were, not even close. Which is my favorite part of the game, right? I can't if I wanted to run a dungeon instead of running Nightmare Sigils, I at least had that option before. I was getting less XP with the buffs to Nightmare Sigils, but I could still go chain run a dungeon I really enjoyed, whatever it happened to be, I'm completely penalized for that now. And now, like, you get such a reduction to the amount of XP you're getting that it is you're mental to go do that, right? You have to run Nightmare Sigils to really do anything competitive, and they furthered that nerf. They nerfed the entire game except for Sigils and Helltides, right? And Helltides I still think are the best content in the game. I still think that that's the best content in the game. I wish it'd be empowered more. But the problem isn't the scaling. Like, everyone that was bitching and moaning about scaling is they felt like they weren't getting more powerful. And I do believe that they fixed that with this, right? Now when you level, you're more powerful than everything because everything else is 5
Yeah.
levels lower than you. But is that the fix they wanted? I don't think anyone was asking for them to continue to scale just at 5 levels below you. That seems like a really bad oversight. But yeah, I don't know, man. The scaling thing, I didn't have a problem with it either. I'm with you 100% Nine Ball. I thought the scaling was fine. There was moments where it felt a little wonky, but overall, it wasn't that big of a deal. I wasn't crying about that. There's other stuff, but it wasn't that.
I think Riker on Reddit had the most concise thing that I had seen, because what were some of the complaints? Monster scaling, um, damage, like certain damages were damage scaling features were reaching like Diablo 3 levels, and so they tried to address some of the damage scaling issues. They tried to address like scaling. They did a bunch of things like that, and of course it was what people were asking for. Nobody liked it, and it was just like Riker said it. Everybody wants to feel better, but no one wants to take their medicine, and that
Yes.
yeah, sometimes nerfs are necessary, though. With this being like the very first season and like the very first, like, this is like the big like content patch, and it just was skewed too heavily to the nerfs and the negative aspects without anything on the other side to really compensate for it. So going into the patch, it felt bad. It felt like everything has just been brought down. So I haven't even talked about survivability and like the armor nerfs and disobedience and all that other type of stuff. And then of course I haven't gotten to the end game in the patch, but it is definitely like one of those ones where beforehand it felt like it was going to be a lot worse than it actually ended up being. I can't speak to, of course, like barbarians or sorcerers, who don't have like as impactful, malignant hearts. But I'm playing a less powerful build, and I'm having just as easy of a time.
And Barbs
So
have
at least
strength, which gives armor, so they're fine too. So fuck them.
So it is. It's the malignant hearts definitely help in that respect. But if you're still on the eternal realm, I don't know.
YOLO. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I have so many thoughts. At the risk of completely,
You got to
just
get up
going.
early in the morning, man. So
I know. Well,
pick
and so
the
I wanted
important
to.
ones.
I wanted to pull up the patch notes that way I could make, because there's so much in here that like I've been wanting to talk about. I've really been digesting it since the really. I want to start by saying I called it. I knew it was going to get nerfed. It had to get nerfed. I think I said that on the last podcast we were on. Vulnerable is
Pretty
out
sure,
of control. Out
Yeah.
of control. It's been out of control. Crit damage out of control. But as soon as they announced that crit chance and damage were going to be in the game, I knew it was going to happen. Same thing happened in Diablo 3.
Yeah.
Crit is fine. When you add crit damage, it scales so irrevocably that the numbers get insane. And then you add any other affix onto it, make it a multiplier, and GG, dude. Like, you're going to be doing quadrillions in 3 months, right? So I knew that there was going to be a problem there, and it needed to be nerfed. My problem is that I don't know how they thought that their nerf was a nerf. They nerfed the amount you can get, not its effectiveness. So now it's required, right? It still is as effective as it was, and if you don't get that little bit that you can get on every piece that gets it, you're completely gimped. And that's a problem. It becomes more required because of that design decision. And I think that, like, from a high level standpoint, I could go into all the notes, and I'll talk about a few of them here in a second. But like, my biggest problem with this patch isn't the nerfs. They needed to happen, even to my class, to the sorcerer class, which got hit the hardest. Especially if we're doing the damage we were doing based on a bug, fix the fucking bug. That's fine, but fix the other bugs too. Like, they didn't touch bursting venoms. Bursting venoms is murdering Lilith in like 45 seconds. They didn't fucking touch it. Maybe they don't know what to do. Okay, interesting, but it was a really lopsided patch for what got affected and how it got affected and how much vulnerable and crit and that scaling, and especially cooldown, affect the sorcerer class um, exponentially. Now, I will say though that
Nerds,
especially
I
when
want, I'm going to interject just for a second, because I
yeah,
think you might have hit on something. As you're, as we're looking at the patch notes and we're, digging into what needs to be nerfed and what doesn't, what is the measure of an effective build? You brought up Uber Lilith, right? Is it
yeah,
that, somebody kills Uber Lilith too quickly, we need to bring that down? Is it Nightmare Dungeons, right? Like, oh, they're getting
it
through
shouldn't be.
too high of Nightmare Dungeons too quickly. That needs to be toned down. Um,
Yeah.
I I feel like the end game is in such a early stage that it's hard to even say like what is powerful, right? Like what is too powerful. Because the
Two-shotting Lilith is too powerful.
what
Two-shotting,
I
That's
right.
right?
fair. Yeah.
Yep.
I would say just as that's a starting point, right? I don't know if that's the end point, but that's the starting point. If you can two-shot her, probably too powerful. If
Right.
it's going to be the pinnacle content, yeah.
Right. But like it just seems like if what is it, what is the metric that they happen to be looking at to make that determination of something being too powerful? Um,
That would
and
be great insight to gather.
I feel like that's the question that needs to be asked somewhere down the road of like, what is it that you look at when it comes to this? Now, you hit on about vulnerability and crit damage, um, and I wholeheartedly agree that that problem wasn't solved at all.
Nope.
If I feel less effective if I don't have vulnerability still, right? I feel like I still need to work that in. Um,
Yep.
and anytime that's is a requirement, then it's not really making a true build. But different conversation for a different day. We're still jabbering about the patch. Is
Well,
anybody
I
up?
think that the
Uh,
problem with vulnerability is the damage calculation in general, right? Like the reason why vulnerable is so strong is that how it applies to the damage calculation. And I get that it's probably a lot more. Look, I'm not a developer, right? I'm not a coder. I don't know this shit, and I know that I have friends that are software engineers. I've talked to them a lot in Discord, especially the last week or two. I know this shit is complicated. Like code is magic, right? Is what I keep hearing them say. Code is magic. You mess with one thing and 50 other things break. I get that, right? And I don't have the magic wand here, but there are some decisions here that just feel like. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't believe in attacking developers, and I think that these guys are doing a really good job. In Diablo 4, I've put hundreds of hours in already in like 7 weeks, whatever it is, since the game's launch. Some of the decisions that were made in the last week are incompetence, 100% incompetence, and part of that, in my opinion, is backpedaling on their own design decisions. Coming into the live stream, which we'll talk about a bit later, right? Like if you're going to make changes and make decisions for the game and the player base for the health of the game, own it, give us some insight, and let's rock with it, right? But don't backpedal and go whoops, right? Because now it's a PR save, right? And that for me felt worse almost, right? Like okay, we made these decisions. There's fixes coming, right? We've got a patch coming up that we're going to talk about, I'm sure, later on too. But it's some of the decisions. I don't know how you're playing the same game that I am, and you thought that would work, right?
to,
And
to
especially when it comes to the vulnerable, the crit, the damage calculation, all that stuff. There's so many pieces that go into it that like I don't know how we landed where we did on those decisions.
I feel like it becomes impossible given the where we are right now. So Leviathan, it is July 25th when we are recording this. Um, it becomes impossible to talk about the patch and the dev stream separate of one another almost now because
Yeah,
they within our time frame they happened
we have
since
both.
we last spoke. So
Yeah,
I think with the conversation kind of going forward, let's blend them. So we have our
sure.
patch, and to catch anybody up who's listening, if you've just been all you've done is play Diablo, you only listen to this podcast because of course, but you pay no attention to anything else. Last week, Friday, the devs got together, and there was a little bit of a mea culpa to kind of just come out and be like, turns out some of the things we didn't like, and as Norberto did kind of allude, move the goalposts. And I'm very much with you on that one, Nerd Words, that the patch was reviled, but like, hey, this is what you think is good for the long term of the game. I'm not behind the scenes. I don't know that. I know there are multiple seasons planned. We have expansions, and if this is what you're like down the road, if this keeps as it is, it's not going to be good. Okay, I'm willing to trust you. Now I know not everybody else is, right?
Right.
But a few days later, well, 2 days after the season goes, they show up and they have their kind of walking back certain things. And their words, are you feeling okay about your sorcerer next week?
I, I'm I feel okay with it now. I feel okay with it now. Like even if they didn't have a buff patch planned or tell us that they did, I'm okay with it, right? It's not my game. It's your product, right? I'm gonna play it regardless. I'm having fun playing the game. But some of the choices made, it just doesn't make any sense. I don't know how a board of people, a group of people, two people, right, even have a conversation and go, yep, that's the decision. That's how we make that. I don't get it. Um, and I think that that's the problem that I have is that like as someone who has a career, right, and has a job, right, I work with other people, and you typically collaborate with other people, and I know the design process is a lot of people working together, right, and a lot of talented, smart people that have played this game and lots of other games. There are decisions that just don't make any sense, and maybe some of it is hamstrung by corporate things and other things. I'm not sure, and I can't speculate on that. All I can say is that the data that I have in front of me, some of these decisions make no sense because anyone who has played any of the betas would go, yeah, that's not going to fix the problem. Um, and so I guess to be a little more specific, like let Uber Uniques, right? We've talked a lot about the Uber Uniques. Having a chase item is fantastic, right? It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good thing. If you go back to like Diablo 3, it didn't really have that at all. Even primals weren't really chase items. You could target farm those in a way that became kind of trivialized at some point, and you just needed it across the board.
Diablo 3 did have chase uniques when the very first seasons came out.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah,
It did, and then it didn't, right? But
yeah.
Diablo
Then
2,
they all got normalized.
well, then you have Path, which has obviously chase items, right? Big time chase items, which are probably a little more than I would even, a little harder to find than I think would be really beneficial. But you can, here's the difference, right? And this is, I guess, what I'm trying to get to is that in those games where the chase item exists, and you have that. And I was thinking about this with my buddies, is like, when you're playing Diablo 2, and yeah, I'm going to go back to Diablo 2, I'm sorry. But if you're playing Diablo 2, right, and you're a day in, you're 3 days in, you're 3 weeks in, you drop a Jaw rune or a Burr rune, you're like, oh shit. Even if you don't want a rune word that uses those, that is instant, like, value. You can go trade it, right, and really fund your account, go get some pieces for different builds or different characters you want to do. There's a value there. The drop rate is so bad on these uniques that the chances of you finding one in a season are negligible. Like, you're just not going to. You might not find one in your lifetime, and it's a 3-month cycle for each season.
I mean, given the amount of hours that have been put into the game and the amount that dropped preseason, it's almost guaranteed that you will not find one in your lifetime.
And so they
That's
add another one to the patch to further the pool. Fuck you! Are you kidding me? Like the let's say it took 15 seconds to develop this Spear of Lycander, which is just a carbon copy from Diablo 3, and it was a terrible item in Diablo 3 as well. But let's just say it took 15 seconds. That's a waste of 15 seconds of payroll. Like, why is that? Who's gonna find that? One person, maybe? Okay, so is that really? What's the ROI, right, on that? It's just, again, the design decision to add another Uber Unique. And then I know, okay, so we had the live stream, we're kind of combining those two things. They talked about, well, we can't say too much, but we are talking about that adjustment, right? Okay, cool. I don't care if you adjust it or don't adjust it, right? It is what it is. I just, the fact that it made it to the game as it is means you don't understand the game you're making. Because if I find it right now, in 2 months, it's pointless. It's going to be in the Eternal Realm, and I won't use it because I'm going to be playing Seasons, right, to go get that battle pass that you want us to go buy. So I'm not even going to touch it. I'm going to have it for 2 months, and it's gone. So that God-tier item. So am I really even going to be excited when it drops? And I can't trade it if I don't need it. So if I want to create, like, an account, like, economy out of it, there's no value there. So it doesn't create. So it's a chase item that doesn't create that feeling you get when you find those chase items in Path and D2 and other games that feel really good, right? I could drop a Burr rune and it feels great, and then I find another Burr rune and I trade it and it still feels great, right? You could drop the orbs in what is it the orbs in Path. I don't play Path anymore. It's been a long time, but
So Chaos
um,
Exalted and Exalted
yeah,
were
yeah,
replaced by Chance or not Chance Orbs,
that's it.
but
Yeah,
and then you always have your Mirror of Calandra. The chase, right? I think part of chase is not um just in finding it via drop, but it's in finding a way to earn it, right? Like you find that
right,
jaw, you find that burr, and I can then turn that into the item I'm really looking for. I'm really looking for a wind force. I'm really looking for a Jalal's mane. Um, I can use this to get that. And that is now
right.
my real chase item I have found by finding this, as opposed to being 100% reliant on RNG to create this item
Right.
for me that I can do nothing with. And I get like
Well, and
some of the developer stuff of saying like, hey, these are very like they're not meant to have builds constructed around. They will
right.
affect a lot of good things. And I get that. But that being said, I think you're a whole like 100% right, nerd words. I don't feel a push to try and find it because one, I don't feel
I
like
don't
I
care.
will. And
Yeah,
then
Yeah.
when I do find it, what am I gonna do with it? Like,
right.
if it doesn't have
Yeah,
anything more than I could put it in my build and that's it. Like,
yeah.
there needs to be that next step.
There's also I mean, like in these Uber uniques are not created equal because, as you mentioned, you look at the Spear of Lycander versus Shaco,
Right.
and
If I drop that
they're,
spear, I'm gonna throw something, bro.
they're,
Like I'm gonna
yeah, it's
throw
like
something.
they're
Especially the
not even
sword.
close.
Like, dude.
Yeah,
And here's the other part too that we're not talking about, and no one has talked about. These are patch notes. All they gave us for the uniques are the affixes. There is so much more context needed to know if these items are good. Like, what fucking
yeah.
stats roll? Because guess what? If this spear doesn't roll with vulnerable damage, no one's gonna use it anyway. Right? Can it roll with critical strike damage? Can it roll with lightning critical strike damage for my lightning build? No idea. Right? And that kind of furthers the problem when you look at these other items, right? So like if you look at it like Lidless Wall, fucking awesome. Seems really good, impactful, and I've
Yep.
seen people playing with it, so it seems great.
Yep.
The Eagle Horn for the Rogue looks incredible. I was already playing Pen Shot. This just makes Pen Shot better, which is really cool, and it makes you use a bow instead of a crossbow, which I really like because I always liked, like even in D2, I liked using a Wind Force, right? Like I like the speed of a bow over a crossbow. Feels better to me. So I like that. And then you get to the Oculus, which I mean, look, it's been memed to death, right? It's been memed to death. I am a huge fan of teleport. I play a sorcerer. I play a sorcerer in every Diablo game. Spamming teleport's my thing. I love it. It's amazing. But there's so much context we don't have. Like the problem with what they show us is gain the effect of the teleport enchantment for free. When you evade using teleport enchantment, you are taken to a random location. None of the other fucking uniques have a negative downside. In fact, none of the other classes have that problem where they get, hey, this thing is really cool and happens, but you do 20% less damage, right? Like it doesn't happen to other classes. Why the fuck is the sorcerer designed that way? Because we're not that much more powerful than everybody else. In fact, we're not more powerful than everybody else. We're probably the weakest right now. That said, there's still builds that are working, and I'll tell you, I've dropped the Oculus. I actually like it. I actually really, really like it. And here's what's crazy about it. It rolls like boots.
Yeah,
They
because it
didn't.
has like the evade charges and
It
stuff
has
like
it
that
had
on it.
evade charges on it. It has attacks reduce evades cooldown on it, and it gives plus 5 to 10 teleport, which goes up to 15 if you upgrade it all the way. So you can get plus 15 to teleport on one item. You get it on your boots, right? So now it's plus 19 to teleport. You can completely reduce the cooldown of teleport to nothing. Right? Which means you don't need to hit the evade button to get out of stuff because you can just teleport. That's awesome. Now here's the problem though. It's your weapon. There's no offensive aspects on it at all. So one, you're losing the aspect that you would have in the offensive slot. And 2, you can't get vulnerable damage, you can't get critical strike damage, you can't get damage to close or damage to distant or any of those damage buckets you typically get on a weapon in a big capacity. So you're going to take that. Now, at level 70, I'm crushing anyway. And I am using it. And having, by the way, 9 evade teleports, even with them being random, is kind of fucking ridiculous, right? Because if I have boots that have +4 evade charges, right? And then I also have the wand that gives me plus evade charges. So it's, and then again, all my attacks reduce the cooldown of evade. So like, dude, I can just like spam spacebar and I'm just like everywhere. It's nuts. And paired with Raiment, I'm pulling stuff in. Now it has created some really fucked up situations where I'm in the pack and I want to get out and I hit the button and I just stay still. Like I stay still, right? I don't move at all. So that's not great. It's definitely meme to death. But like, if we had the context of looking at the stats they gave us, that'd be fine. But all they gave us was the aspect as if it's a legendary, but it's unique. There's so much more we need to know about the item, specifically because we can't re-roll the stats. So what stats does it drop with, right? And that is just an oversight. How does that make it into the patch notes? Especially 6,600 words, which, by the way, the biggest problem with the patch notes is that we're 7 weeks into the game, and like 4,000 of the 6,600 words were bug fixes. We're in the alpha, boys. If there's ever been evidence that this game launched too soon, and that is probably our fault as much as the developers' fault, right? Like, as fans of Diablo, I want this game. I don't give a shit. I'll beta test it. I'm down, right? But that, I've never seen a patch, and every single patch for Diablo 4 has had a just laundry list of bug fixes, and there are still notable bugs being exploited that have not been fixed. So there's more to come, right? And again, I get it. Code is magic. I am not a developer, right? I also get what it's like to have deadlines and shareholders and stockholders to fulfill obligations and all. I get it. I do. But it feels like we're throwing darts at a board a little bit.
It's one of those ones where it's the boon and the bane of being a live service game is that, you know, it can ship in, you know, in a, you know, a playable state instead of a perfected state.
Sure.
You know,
sure.
so
And
yeah, there's you know, that's something that, you know, like the live services team, you know, the producers, you know, and I'm sure even, you know, Rod gets involved with, we've got these bugs. These are things. Fury against Fate still don't work. Do we push the patch? Do we launch the game? And everybody's like,
Yep.
yeah. Yep.
Well, and again, I want to quantify that too. This is why I'm saying we're a part of the problem. I don't want it to be different. I'm happy to be playing it, right? Like, I don't care about the bugs and what's broken, whatever else. But it is a pretty stark, like, when you're looking at patch notes, and more than half of the huge patch is just bug fix, bug fix, bug fix, bug fix, bug. And by the way, this patch created more bugs that I hadn't seen before. I can't move my character anymore, right? In your character select screen, you can't move your characters up and down anymore to pick the order they show up in. Like, there's little shit like that just now is broken that wasn't, again, coding, right? But it's just, we are absolutely testing the game. And again, I'd rather be testing the game than having to wait on it for another year, right? It probably needed another year of development. I'll be happy to be that tester to help them develop it for another year. That's fine. I think the game is good, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it. But there's just...
I can guarantee you, you know, you've played WoW. You know what it's like. You know, two
WoW
years
has
from
a PTR to test this shit before they break it again.
Yeah, but like WoW is also like, you know, it's going to be 2 years from now in Diablo 4, and it's still going to be probably like 30% of the patch notes is going to be bug fixes because that's how these things work. It really is, you know. Every time that they fix something, we fixed a raid encounter in Heart of Fear, and we broke the chess event in Karazhan. For anybody that played WoW will understand that, you know. So it's just
But there's also like there's so many choices in this.
I do want to go back to one of the things like that you just said about the PTR. Like, we didn't get a PTR, right? You know, which is like one of those ones where it's like, it's season 1. I kind of get it. It's like one of those other ones that I definitely feel like a couple of my buddies that I played, you know, Diablo 4 at launch with and such. Like, one hasn't even started the season yet. And the other one, you know, leveled with me up until the 40s, unlocked World Tier 3, and then now, like, he's playing Vampire Survivor right now. because one never even got to 100 before, just a whole bunch of real life stuff, and just doesn't feel. It's like, yeah, well, it's like kind of like, again, like the bane and the boon of, oh, we have another balance patch coming out to address some of the player concerns and to some of the other things that they said, that like the monster density changes that they had planned to coincide with some of these nerfs that you just should have told us to begin with. That it's like, well, I'll just play when that comes out. Like he doesn't have any interest in starting until that goes through and drops. And then my other buddy, who Curtis, like he's just still burnt out on the grind to 100.
Yes.
And then kind of like that lack of things to do after hitting 100, because he hit 100, he started an alt, he's playing a barbarian. He went to go through and play. He leveled a sorcerer. He leveled a rogue. Got them both like into the 40s or the 50s or something, and then just kind of like stopped. It was like he was just feeling the burnout way too hard. And he still has the burnout. It should have been more time. It's like,
I said that when you said what they had announced as the launch window for the season, I'm like, that's like 6 weeks after the launch of the game. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to think about a season for 6 months. If you remember that, like I remember saying that on the podcast. Like, let me enjoy the game, test the game out, really get to know my class in this context of Diablo 4 before I jump into a season and compete or race up or whatever it happens to be. Season 1 was too fast, but if they didn't launch season 1 now, they wouldn't be able to get 2 in before the quarters were over. So they need to make their quotas for the fiscal year if they want to sell those battle passes. So. That's, I think, my problem, right? Is that when you look at the patch notes and you look at some of the changes that have happened, and I'm not part of the conspiracy theory family of like, oh, they want to make us play the game longer to make their numbers go up. That's stupid. Making a worse product is not going to make anyone play the game more. I'm sorry, it's not how that works. But we all know that this is a business, right? And we all know that the season should see a surge of income based off of selling battle passes. And then little changes, like the loading screen changes, so that you can look at your character more. Yeah. So that you can be more inclined to go buy those skins that are overpriced as fuck more. It's little things like that. And then just completely ducking questions like, why is the leave dungeon 5 seconds instead of 3? And he's like, yeah, we're going to keep looking at it. Just doesn't answer the question on the dev stream at all. Just completely disregards it. It's like, no. We're asking why you made the change, because that's a very specific. You added 2 seconds. Why not make it 20 seconds? Why not make it a minute? Why did you go from 3 to 5 seconds?
Well, I mean, it wasn't even so that he fully dodged the question. He said that that they'll go through and they'll continue to monitor it, but they reintroduced the reset dungeon button in order to make resetting dungeons faster.
That's answering the question by completely dodging it and bringing up something else entirely.
No. You're not, because you're not thinking about things as a developer. Because with the reset dungeon button there, making it so that way there's the people that know in the tribal knowledge of how to reset a dungeon by leaving group and doing it instantly and such, versus the regular people that are just going through and it's like, well, I know that I gotta like run blind burrows, but I don't know how to reset the dungeon, so we'll do something else for like a minute until I can do it again. But now that the reset dungeon button is there, everybody can do it. And what does that do? It increases server strength. It increases the amount of resources that the server and the game engine and all those other types of things are doing. So the 2 second window that they added on to that one basically was designed in order to go through and help relieve server stresses.
But he didn't fucking say that. You said that. He could have said that. He didn't. He completely dodged it. And that's my problem, is that if that was the case, cool, that's fine. Tell me that. That makes sense. That makes total sense. 9, you are very smart and I appreciate you. But that's not what the fuck he said. He said, well, it's only 2 seconds. That's what he said. He said, it's only 2 seconds, and we added the reset dungeon back. He didn't answer the fucking question. And again, they all looked real tired in this. So I feel like part of that was part of it, that you started to see some, I almost feel like annoyance slip through from them. But
yeah, I think it's one of those ones where it's just like, he knows that saying that we introduced the reset dungeon and so we had to increase the time by the 2 seconds. He knows what he means by that, but obviously other people don't know, and like you said, it probably should have been elaborated, which I think is like one of the big things, like with a lot of the big sticking points for this patch, is that if you had said that we're reducing the XP, but in a later patch, but in a very soon to be released later patch, we'll be increasing monster density in order to compensate. there wouldn't have been as many people angry about it. And
See,
so it
and
is
that's
like one of those ones where it's like it definitely it there's a lot of context that still needs to get communicated out, and that's something that the team as a whole definitely has to work on.
yeah. Well, and I think that and normally they've been great about it. And I do want to stress too, by the way, um, they actually answered good questions this live stream,
I
right?
was I
There were
was going to
some.
interject
Oh,
and say that like I felt like Pez tossed a lot of the questions that I think most of the
really good
community
questions.
would have been upset had they not been brought up. Um, whereas
Yeah. If they asked
in
another pet a dog question, I'd have been fucking mental.
yes, whereas as in previous chats, there had been a little bit more canine emphasis. These were
A little bit.
questions
Just a smidge.
that I felt like I saw continuously cropping up. And, going back to the front end of the show, when we talk about good constructive criticism, that's what good constructive criticism does, is it then leads
Yeah.
to those questions being asked as opposed to just typing in all caps and calling people names. Um, so like they're like, hey, no, these are real concerns. This is what people are asking, and then to get a real genuine response, even if it is just, hey, no, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna keep it this way. But this is the reasoning behind it. Hey, that's awesome.
Right.
So yeah, the Pez definitely went above and beyond when
Well,
it
and
it
with
came
the
to those
exception of this, and I
questions.
think a couple other questions, they actually answered the questions too. They did a
Yeah.
really good job with that, right? And so just to really like make sure I make this one question, he felt dismissive and borderline pissy that it was asked, and he deflected it in a way that felt that way to me. And again, I'm also drawing assumptions which probably aren't fair, but I will say that's how it felt from my end, right? And it was and if that is the answer, right? Then again, why not 10 seconds, right? If 5 seconds reduces server strain, then 10 seconds really reduces server strain, right? Especially if they're loading everyone's fucking stash on the same server shard every time you load a new
Okay.
game, but that's
All
a
right.
whole different conversation.
Okay. I'm glad that you went through and brought that up because, all right, this is just the thing that pisses me off because none of you fuckheads have any idea how anything fucking works,
That's
okay?
true.
Because
That's true.
every single game that has an inventory in existence
Con-
loads your entire
context.
stash.
Context. Give
Yeah, we
context
gotta give
before you go
context
into
first. We
this
gotta give
rant.
context
Yeah.
first.
So the whole thing is that Joey P went through and mentioned that there was the whole thing about like the expense of resources when like going through and having to load too many like assets and characters on the screen, and he elaborated what that meant as saying that whenever another character is loads into your shard or your screen or whatever, you also load the entirety of their inventory and what's in their stash space, and so that
Right.
it is incredibly resource intensive in order to add an additional stash tab for characters because of how much additional information that loads. And yes, that's how video games work. That is anything that has a stash or an inventory. Because the question that I'm going to ask to you, it, to the game itself and to the engine, is there a difference between your inventory and your stash? The answer is no, there isn't. It's a UI element is the only thing that separates it. You are literally walking around in any game that you play, World of Warcraft, Path of Exile, I do not care. You are walking around with the entirety of your stash or your bank, your whatever they call it, with you at all points in time, because that is information that is part of your character. It is necessary for it to exist in the first place. It doesn't
Sure.
just whisk off into Neverland or anything like that. It's always there, and it's a UI element that goes through and changes whether you're having it accessible at this point in time or not. You can optimize that further so that way it only loads, it caches the information, it only loads relevant information when it's called for. Hence why, there's like a little bit of a lag when you open up the bank that it has to go through and now load like that cached version. Now, what they can do in Diablo 4 is optimize it so that way it's only pulling that information from a character when you inspect them, but that's an optimization issue. It would have to work that way. It would have to load your stash with the rest of your character because that's how these things work.
No,
That's just
hang
how
on,
it
hang on a second.
happens.
Because you're saying this is how things work, and maybe you just know more about this than I do. You have to, because I didn't realize in World of Warcraft that I'm loading my entire guild's inventory and bank every time I'm in the game. And I don't know how the servers are even alive if that's the case, with how many
Because
items are.
because World of Warcraft has it itemized to the point that it only goes through and it pulls other players' inventory when you inspect them. It's an
Okay,
optimization.
so
It's an optimization issue, is what it is.
That's the problem. It's not that this exists the way it does, but for me, when I read that, I went, and again, I'm not a developer, right? And I
Yeah.
appreciate your energy here. But I'm not a fucking developer. If average Joe whatever doesn't know that they can wait a minute to reset the dungeon or leave party to reset a dungeon, they definitely don't fucking know this. And reading this as someone who's played Diablo for 20 years blew my mind. Blew my mind because I'm like, wait a minute. So that means when I load into a game, I can't trade the shit that I have to anyone, but they're reading my information, like from a server side standpoint. That sounds insane to me. And maybe Diablo 2 and Path of Exile and all these games do the same thing, but I wasn't aware of that until Joe tweeted this thing, right?
That's my point, is that gamers think that they're smarter than they actually are, and they don't realize how these things work. That's why inventory management, stash tabs, and things like that is one of the single hardest things to develop in any game that is in existence. Because I'll ask you this. What is the difference in terms of storage capacity and server resources between a stash space that has an item in it and one that is empty?
So I don't know, but that's not my fucking job.
Yeah, I know, but
I'm not getting paid a salary to do that and fix that problem.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's virtually negligible. An empty item and inventory space takes up about as much server resources as something that has an item in it.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's like, so it's one of those things that people are like, well, just add the stash tab. It doesn't matter because other people will have it empty. It does matter. Because now all of a sudden, if you have 1 million players that are all going through and running, and you add, 100 extra stash inventory spaces, you're increasing all of the characters, even people that don't log in. Right. Even if they don't even buy the stash tab space, because again, it's a UI element. It still exists whether that person has bought the stash tab or not. The game is still having to keep track of all of that information. It's things that go through and track resource-intensive things on databases and server processes and all other types of stuff. And it's one of those things that scales with the number of people that exist in the game. So just adding one stash tab actually is a ginormous jump up. I mean, you look at like Diablo 3, and they tried to add like one additional stash tab, and they had to pull it back, because even after like 3 or 4 years of development, of like dedicated development to try and add that one more stash tab, they just couldn't do it. It kept breaking the game because it's like some of those things that people just will never appreciate, the sheer amount that goes into inventory and stash space and things like that on the processing backend. If you look, they didn't get voted that highly. But if you look at, like the Reddit threads that were going through and talking about it, and actual developers, not even video game developers, but people that just code and handle database management, were going through and saying, yeah, no, I understand that. In response to all the outrage. And then there was tons of game developers that were going through and adding
outrage about it.
Oh, yeah, no, because no one understands what inventory space actually matters, and how resource intensive and how complicated and how absolutely just it's probably, in terms of like development, probably like one of the single biggest developers of gray hair and baldness.
Okay, so if I can ask some questions here then, right? So
come on, man, I'm sitting right here.
That was rude, by the way. But if I guess, so let me ask you this, right? You're creating a new Diablo game, right?
Yeah.
You know that stash space and inventory management is it's a crux, it's a game within a game, what Diablo always has been, okay? You know what stash space and the limitations of that have been in the past. You decide to create an MMO version of Diablo. At no point do you think, man, we might not have enough space.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go and stop you right there, because it's not that at no point nobody went through and brought this up or decided that was going to be. What decisions, bugs, or other things were more important for them to develop or to devote developer time to fix than the optimization of the inventory loading of other players?
I don't know.
Exactly. You don't. I don't know. We don't know. But obviously there were other things that were out there that had to have been decision processes that were been made. that they had to go through and do it. Because, I mean, you could take it from Joe's comment there. It's something that they're actively working on and that they want to go through and do. And as I said, it's not an infinite problem. It's an optimization issue that they could eventually be able to go through and fix at some point, whenever, that whenever they're done nerfing vulnerability or whatever. But it is like one of those
or
things
adding
that it's
in
like
32 new gems for you to collect in your inventory and take up space and more
yeah.
optimization needed.
But it's one of those ones where it's like, again, as I already said, it doesn't matter whether your stash space is empty or has an item in it. It's practically the same to the server. It's one of those things that is just like, it's something that they're going through and they're working on. It's something that people don't understand. They tried to lift the curtain a little bit, and the whole Diablo community exploded and said, "This is the most stupid thing ever. These devs don't know what they're doing." When actually, you all have no idea how video games are made. You all have no idea.
You're right. Just like, hang on, Nine.
No. You say you're right. You don't know, and yet you have comments about it. Like you're
yeah.
like
Okay,
people,
I can go to a movie and enjoy the movie theater without knowing how the fuck you do your job. Right? I can enjoy a movie and enjoy the experience without knowing how to do the stuff behind the scenes.
But then I try to tell you how my job is run, and you said, "Oh, that's fucking stupid."
Did I say that?
No.
Well, I'm saying like
it's
in general of people going through. Yeah, the hypothetical of people going through.
I like how I'm the internet for you right now.
Yeah.
So, thanks for
Nineball's
tuning
really
in
passionate about stash base.
Well, it's not even so much that it's about stash base. It's like we're going through and we're talking about like constructive criticism and criticism where criticism is due. And this isn't one of those instances where it's like, I'm not a helicopter pilot, but if I see a helicopter in a tree, I know somebody fucked up. It's like someone goes outside, looks up at the sky, and it's like, what's that? It's like the sky is blue, and it's like, well, that's a stupid color choice. It's like, that's just how things are. That's how it exists. Like it's like it's making commentary on things that people don't understand. Without actually like, it's something that annoys me, like to no end, because people, it's like out of all the things that they go through and they could lump shit on, for the developers, and like this is like one of the most upvoted things that they're calling for the developers to lose their job and all this stuff.
Well, that's
and then
stupid.
but then the people in the comment threads and such are going through and that actually work in games, or people that just do coding, and they're like, yeah, databases are hard. Yeah, inventory is hard. Like it's like you going through and loading your inventory space for your character. Yeah, that's how games work. That's how, because your character is your inventory space. There's no, in the game code, there's no delineation. The server, like the CPU, the ones and zeros, do not care. Whether you have the item equipped or anything like that. That functions a different aspect of the code base. But your character, it's your inventory. So it's like one of those ones where it's just like it annoyed me seeing people react the way that they do from a place of such like divine ignorance that they felt that they're so right. Yeah,
that's human nature, right? Like we all have our own things that we are familiar with and know about, but we also have things that we're passionate about. And I think that, like, at the end of the day, I don't even think stash base is that big of a problem. Now, mind you, I play pretty much exclusively a sorcerer, so for me, I don't even think stash is that big of a deal. But hearing that did blow my mind a bit. Now, mind you, I didn't know that every other game in the world, and I don't know where you're getting that information, but apparently every other game in the world does the same exact thing. Okay, I'll take your word for it. That seems insane to me, because I don't know how. Again, the World of Warcraft team exists in the building. You'd feel like that we could talk to someone and maybe work on something there. I don't know.
Well,
but
like I said,
you're right. I don't do the job. So.
That's where you start at. Your starting point is, you load the character, which includes their inventory. The next step is the optimization, so that way you go through and you make it that it only calls other characters' inventories when an actual call is made for it. Sure. What the game is doing right now is it's just loading the entire stash tab when that character is on there. They can optimize it so that way it doesn't, but that is an additional step that has to be added into the base, processes of the game where you are your inventory.
Which,
and
by the way,
which is just going through and saying that is something that they're aware of. It's that they're not going to work on it and that they developed it brokenly or anything. It's just that what other decisions, issues, development, and features came up that were more important than that? And
Right.
we don't know. Yeah, and they're probably not
Right.
going to tell us either. You
No,
know,
and honestly, I don't think Joe should have said this. Right. I'm glad he did to a certain
well,
extent.
obviously, the given, like I said, they lifted the curtain behind game development and how hard and intricate developing games is, and the internet lost its fucking mind, and they don't understand any of it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, I guess I have different thoughts about that, but I think that my whole thing is that like I really like I think that these guys are doing a really good job with what they've got. And I think that there's a lot of limitations put in place that we don't see, especially from higher ups management, whatever it happens to be. I think that insight was just again, as someone who's played games for a long, long time, um, it's just crazy that that's how that works. And I never knew that that's how that worked, and I didn't know that's how it worked in Diablo 2 or Diablo 3 or Path and all these other games. But by the way, the reason why we're talking about all this team world people out there is because they are giving us a stash tab. They are going to give everyone a stash tab with this new patch that's coming up, which I anticipate now is going to fuck everything up for a while. We'll see how that goes when it launches, because everyone's going to have a whole other stash tab, which is going to create server issues, I'm sure. Hopefully not, and surely they're working or testing or whatever to make sure it's good. And it seems like that they're actively looking for a fix here. It's yeah, it was kind of eye opening to me. And eye opening not in the sense that now I understand things, just like I guess I just completely didn't understand at all. Again, like you're talking about, the general internet public reaction to this thing. But it was really eye opening and just blew my mind. Just completely blew my mind.
Okay. Um, we're gonna take a quick waypoint here. We're putting a pause on Nerd Words and Nine Balls Stash Fight Night and hitting the waypoint. You guys probably need some water. You've been yelling at each other for so long.
I
Um,
don't feel like I yelled.
no, you weren't. You guys were fine. It was funny. Uh, just like, all right, let's just yak it up here. Okay, so um, this waypoint, as we head to town and fill up our stashes, uh, is ironically for Pure Diablo. Uh, we missed it at the front end. I completely forgot to mention that we are brought to you by PureDiablo.com, your home for an expansive Diablo wiki, an ever-growing community, and well, of course, this podcast is a little bit of a self-plug. Um, but they're just great. They're great people. It's a great site. Get out there, check what is happening. Use the interactive map tool. You probably need it to help complete your renown, and then you know, stay a while. And of course, listen. All right, gentlemen, gather up your potions, fill up your I don't know, scrolls, elixirs, and we'll head back to this conversation. Side note, we're getting close to being back like a whole year. Like we are almost 1 year into this podcast. Been going for a long time, had a hiatus, comes back with us. Um, I'm a little disappointed that we have not been asked to like do one of those BetterHelp kind of Spotify commercials that you hear on every podcast. Like
I'm
every
offended.
yeah,
podcast. Like every podcast I listen to, it's like, all right, here's the BetterHelp ad. Um, why not us? Is the better question. We're out there. We could
nor have
do
we
it.
been asked to plug Raid Shadow Legends.
Yeah. Um,
I'm
or
so
like
ass.
uh a home security system or I mean the
NordVPN.
yeah, all these cool things that we could be plugging, but you know what? We're not. So if we don't start getting somebody, I'm gonna start making stuff up and say we're
Nice. I like
sponsored
it.
by things that would never sponsor us. Um, so just putting it out there, better help. We could do it. That's the and actually like you could. Okay. Let's get back to it. We've established stashes are complicated. In be
Yeah. Yes.
in between the patch and the dev stream, there was a season that started, and we kind of got into it during the recent play. Um, And I'm curious, how has season one landed for both of you? Um, the we are given these hearts, these malignant hearts. We're given a small little quest line to complete, and of course, there is a battle pass as well. Um, I don't want to leave the full patch and dev stream conversation completely aside, but it feels like this is also a big part of that too, to kind of dig into is how the patch has been, because I think a lot of that sentiment also carries into the dev stream of like, it's been 2 days and we're still pissed off. Um, because part of nerfing is there sometimes is something that's added in that kind of softens the blow. And as you were alluding to, Nineball, Necromancer has a lot of cool hearts. And you're just like, oh shit, this is still fun. I'm still having a good time. Other classes, not so much. Where you're just like, I don't care about this mechanic. I don't want to play it anymore. And the patch has ruined my class. So, how has season one landed? Let's talk just about the season. Let's save the battle pass conversation for after that because that's a separate beast, I think, too. So let's just talk regular season. How's it been? How you liking it? How about them hearts, eh?
Blast. I've been enjoying it. Like I said, I did kind of get burnt out for like the last 2 weeks and didn't have very much Diablo time. So going through, getting back in, it's been a lot of fun. I I appreciate the renown changes, and it is a lot faster now in order to unlock those Paragon points. But that still is a grind that I feel is detracting from my grind, because I just want to get in there. I want to start gaining levels. I want to just like start running dungeons, farming hell tides.
It's your chores. You have to
But
do your chores
yeah,
first.
yeah. But I've got to do my chores. So I got to unlock those sweet Paragon points. I think it's almost there. I honestly think that it's almost there. Um, I'm fine with having to go through and grind out, the renown every season. I'm fine with the choice of the map exploration, the altars of Lilith. I would like to see the waypoints just added in. That'd just be like another little thing that saves me from having to run to all the areas. I'm okay with re-clearing the strongholds, but maybe just a little bit more renown from the dungeons and side quests. I'm getting better at it. People are figuring out like the best quest loops and stuff like that to try and get it even faster. I feel as if it just needs to take a little bit less, and it'll be there. But still, probably my only sour point so far has been that renown grind. I feel as if it, like, as Nerdword said, it's a chore that I have to complete before I can start playing the game that I want to play.
Um, so I hate this season. I don't like it, and I don't like it because I think the hearts are cool. I think there's good interactions. Yeah, the sorcerers ones kind of suck, but there are good ones, right? I'm currently using a combo that's making chain lightning possible to work, right? Which is good. Which, by the way, everyone out there, if you really like a single target skill, but it doesn't work in the game because they decide to keep buffing fucking density, which makes all your single target or limited target skills not viable, right? Like, let's say for instance, like by the way, I about lost my mind when they said that. Oh, we're gonna buff density. Oh, cool. So my chain lightning that hits 5 mobs is gonna be less relevant because there's more mobs, so I need to do damage to more things. Cool. But the barber malignant heart and the I forget what it's called, but the heart that makes it to where you do more critical hit damage but less damage when you don't crit. If you can stack up to 20-25% even crit, it is phenomenal. It is really good. My buddy's running a double swing barb with that combo. Disgusting. Super cool, super fast, really awesome. I'm running a chain lightning build with that combo. Really cool, really fun. Um, I'm already over the fucking farming the hearts. I have an entire stash tab filled with them, and they're optimized ones too. Like, I'm not keeping like every single one of them. I'm going through and, like, so I have it's just a problem. And also, like, I know I mentioned this before about how, like, okay, I got to click the thing and I got to wait and I got to kill the dude and then I got whatever. It's more noticeable now that I'm playing, right? Like, let me just kill the dude, pick up the heart, and go, right? I don't want to. I know it's just a couple seconds, but it's enough. It's not the end of the world, and it's really like, crying over spilled milk a little bit, but it is a slowdown in the play process, and it feels a little clunky to have to sit there and wait. And honestly, I'm already to the point at level 70 where if it's not Wrathful, I'm not stopping. Right? If it's Wrathful, I'm going to stop. I'm going to try to get it. If it's not Wrathful, I'm going to move on until I hit a higher level and can get the higher item powers, because I've got really nice rolled ones right now. But I'm
I
already.
do.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I do want to add to that because I don't mind the time that it takes to wait for the other one to spawn and such, but the heart itself is so clunky.
yeah.
Because it's like you see like the thing, it takes a second for it to form, and it's like I'm trying to click on it and it's not actually there,
It's also
and
not always
then it's
noticeable too. I probably missed a
yeah.
few. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's definitely, it has some interactivity issues that make it
Yeah.
very clunky to actually get it to click to spawn the thing.
Well, and I hesitate to say this because I don't want to get screamed at again, but the heart, right, should also have the seasonal symbol that isn't just when it drops on the ground. Like when the heart like pops up, right, and is there for you to click it. If it
Yeah.
had the seasonal symbol there, that would make it more noticeable that it's on the screen, and then to click it and then start the process. I think that would be helpful. But I don't know design, so I don't know how easy that is. But I'm just saying. But no, I honestly like I'm enjoying Diablo 4, and so I'm enjoying playing Diablo 4. But I'm with 9, and I'll actually echo it. I'm fucking over Renown. It is a chore. It is stupid. I feel like I'm doing dailies in World of Warcraft. In Diablo 3, Diablo 2, I don't have to go do chores before I can play my character. And in Path of Exile, you play the campaign, and it made me think of something. Imagine this, and I really, and this is, again, not a developer, but if they gave me a choice between replaying the campaign or refarming Renown to unlock all those extra skill points and Paragon points, I would rather do the campaign again than do the Renown again. That's how I feel. Now, mind you, I also enjoy the story and the lore, so there's part of that too. And I've actually had more fun doing the Renown by doing side quests and not doing the dungeons, but you kind of have to do the dungeons for the powers and the codex stuff that you need. I just like, let me hit, the level where I, unlock, hit 50, start unlocking my Paragon, whatever, and let me just rock with it, right? Like, I don't want to go do chores. I don't want to have to go do that. And I do believe that it's a side effect of the launch window versus the seasonal start. In 3 months, it probably won't feel as bad, but the fact that we did it 6 weeks ago is, I think, why it feels so bad. You know? Right? Like, normally you're going to have a 3-month time frame between grinding the Renown again. And I do think the Renown changes are good, right? Getting the little extra, the 10 extra for the side quests and the dungeons is an improvement for sure. I just don't think it's enough, and I found myself literally, like, I had to take a break. I was at Disney on vacation when the season started, so I didn't get to start right away. I drove 21 hours home. It was probably about 23 hours total. I did nap in the car for 3 hours while the girlfriend drove for 3 hours, but we drove straight through. We didn't stop. We didn't get a hotel room. Drove straight because we both wanted to get home to play the Diablo season, right? So we get home because she's playing Necro on console. She's like the developers. So we get home. She jumps on and starts playing. I'm playing too. Mind you, I probably should have slept because I definitely didn't feel great. But jumped on, started playing. And yeah, like I started playing and I just like, I got through, hit level 50, and then I was like, okay, I want to start grinding Renown a bit more now. And about halfway through the Renown grind, I probably had done like, I'd finished 2 zones and I still had 3 more to go, but I was like getting towards the end of it. I had to take a break. Like, I was like, you know what, dude? Like, and maybe that's just healthy. Maybe I'm just getting to that age where I got to do that. But I didn't have to do that. I don't normally have to do that. Normally I can just like power through and I'm fine. But like, I went and took a nap. I was like, you know what, dude? Fuck this. Like, I'm so bored. And I was bored in the first 2 days of the first Diablo 4 season. Now, again, part of it was I did drive 20-something hours and all that. So there's probably more contributing factors there. But I've never had that feeling before. Not in any season for any Diablo game or any other type of game that I played in season. So I don't know. For me, I'm still playing the season. I'm level like 70 something, I think now. And And I am enjoying my build, even though the Sork is. It seems like universally renowned as the worst class in Diablo 4 right now. So I'm not trying to be bitchy. I honestly don't think the Sork is in that bad of a spot. Our survivability absolutely is, but I also think that requires us to be a little bit better, right? I think a good Sork is better than a decent rogue. I don't know. Maybe that's just me trying to be cool, but yeah,
I
I
think
am the heart mechanic for the season. I'm already kind of bored with. Um, but we'll see how, I don't know how I'll feel in 10 levels, right? I'm also at that point of the grind, that 50 to 100 grind, that 70 to 100 grind, where it really starts to be like, ugh, what am I doing? But if I get a power that my build comes online a little bit more, maybe if I get the Spear of Lycander, I'll change my mind, but I doubt it. We'll see what happens.
Oh, you'll change your mind, and it will definitely be the worst season ever. It's
Right.
not. You won't just not like it. You'll absolutely hate it
Yeah,
because that's the only Chase Unique you're ever finding.
yep. Especially now
And
that
it
I've
was
said
that
it.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I,
I mean, yeah, I definitely feel you on that one. I would actually counter your point about how it feels like WoW dailies, because WoW dailies were things that you had to do continuously for continued
That's
benefit,
fair.
and
That's fair.
these you are forced to
Well,
do once and never again. Well, at least not until the season. It was just like one of those ones where it's like, if it had like a continued benefit, that I could keep grinding out renown, finish everything in the zone, and get something cool or extra for it, it wouldn't feel as bad. But it's just like it's just it just feels like a stoplight,
yeah.
is what it
Well, and
is.
and the problem is that they nerfed the game except for Nightmare Sigils. So anything that isn't Nightmare Sigils feels like a waste of fucking time. And so running
Yeah.
all these side dungeons, which some of them are my favorite dungeons, right? Like I remember you making a comment about when I was bitching and moaning about Nightmare Sigils, because yes, I still hate them and I still think they're trash. I think it's a terrible system and I think it needs to change. I think that Diablo 4 somehow combined the worst part of Diablo 3 and the best part of Diablo 3 and made it really bad. And that is they put bounties in my rifts. And that fucking makes me mad. But whatever. Now I've got to go kill stuff in this dungeon, but I've got to save 9 fucking prisoners. Fuck you! Are you kidding me? No one liked this shit in Diablo 3. Why are we doing it in our dungeons now? But whatever. But my whole thing is that like it just feels so bad because of the changes made it feel worse, right? Like you get such less XP. Yeah, you unlock the codex, but like I don't give a fuck about unlocking like a necro or rogue power, right? I'm a sorcerer, right? So that's all I want to do. So I'm focused more on the side quests, and honestly, I'm enjoying doing the side quests again because like I really think that's the unsung hero of Diablo 4 are the side quests. There are just so many cool little story moments and little like nods to things that are in those side quests that are fantastic. So I'm enjoying it because of that. But when we were just doing like just dungeon grinding to just do the renown, man, I was my ears were bleeding. It felt like I was like I just need to step away from this game. But again, will I feel that way if I have 3 months between when I grind the renown? Probably not. But the fact that I just grinded renown like 4 or 5 weeks ago, that's why I think it feels as bad as it does. So we'll see how I
Yeah.
feel when season 2 comes around.
I
And I'm
think
done now, so I don't have to touch it. Right, I'm done
Yeah.
now. So
I
um
still have Kyrgyzstan and Hawazar.
I'm gonna pray for you. Oh, Kejistan's the
Yeah.
best though. The side quests in Kyrgyzstan are amazing.
That's actually what I've been doing. I've barely touched any of the dungeons. It's
They're
really just
so
been
much
going through
faster
and
than doing
doing.
side quests. Yeah.
Yeah. And they link into one another too
Yes,
pretty
they
well.
do.
That they'll take you to a zone and do a couple and such. So yeah.
Yep, agreed.
so
I looted like an angel's breath and it dropped the mushroom. I was like, yes, that's one less dungeon.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah, yep. You get the little like droppables, and it's like, oh, sweet quest item, sweet. Turn it in, done. That's 30 renown. Let's go.
Yeah.
um
Sorry, Zan.
no, it's fine. It's fine. Um I feel like the consensus here though is that
Renown
season
sucks.
one, outside of that, is that season one is kind of a dud. It
Yeah.
didn't it didn't bring anything more to Diablo. Like I think, and I had said it before on previous podcasts, that I felt like season one needed to be a win because that is setting a tone, and it's when the most eyes are on Diablo, right? it feels kind of bad. Like I'm still enjoying it, and I plan to be playing for a while at the rate that I play, but the season, the hearts and the quest line just aren't enough to compensate. It's not that different from what we were playing weeks ago. Obviously, the patch changed a few things, but that I just wanted a little bit more. I wanted something like a mechanic akin to a Path of Exile League, where you want to engage with it for as long as possible. And some of those are duds. Some of those league mechanics that they have brought out, I'm just like, oh, this is awful. I don't want to play this league. And that's the risk of a season, right? Is that the season mechanic could really detract from your audience. I'm curious the impact of season one to season two now, because season two has some hype. We're going to get a gem tap. We're going to get all that. How many people just wait, guys. It'll be a gem tap. Um, but how many people who had those aspirations for season one, who were put off by what we'll talk about next, which will be the battle pass, are going to come back for season two in October? When there is, again, every season is not competing against itself; it's competing against other games as well. Um, how many people are coming back if this was the experience they got first?
So I do want to say I don't think it's fair to say it's a dud yet, and I say that because we have only gotten half the patch. Like the problem with the patch that came out is that it was half a patch. We got the bad half. The other half's coming, right? And even like the Nightmare Sigil hotfix that increased density and increased and reduced the difficulty, I thought was a massively positive change. Because that was the other part too, was like doing a Nightmare Sigil 55, right, as a level 100 Sork, so you're fighting level 109 stuff. Should be pretty challenging, right? And I feel, but my Barb friend is like blasting it like it's nothing, right? My Rogue buddy can just zoom through like it's nothing. My Necro's one-shotting everything, and as a Sork, I'm having to like kite them into a corner, and if they become immune, I gotta run away and teleport off
Fighting
screen.
for my fucking life here.
It's awful, right? It's a struggle, right? So this nerf made it feel better. And look, I mean, to be honest with you, like despite the nerfs, there's a level 91 Sork that cleared a Nightmare Sigil 100 today. That's huge, right? That's really huge. So it's not that it's not possible, right? And I think that the changes obviously made that possible, right? The tuning of the how they're making it all kind of squished together, which I think is good. I also liked hearing their insight into what sigils are, but again, like I think my biggest problem, again, with a lot of this stuff, it isn't the patch notes, it isn't all these. It's I don't know what their vision is, because the stated vision and the execution of that stated vision feel okay. We want you to be locked into builds, right? We want your decisions to be important, right? We want you to make very clear decisions on your builds and what's happening, and we want it to be expensive, and you really to have to like think about it before you re-roll your character or respec your character, right? But everyone's bitching enough about it. So now we're working on an armory and we're reducing that cost by 40%. That's not the problem though. The problem isn't that it's too expensive. I don't think it's like 15 million at level 100 is about 15 million gold to respec all your paragon and your skill points. Now again, the re-rolling becomes way more expensive. For sure. But I mean, like you can grind the game to farm the loot and gear to be able to do that. That's okay. I think that that's fine. I think that's a good thing to do. As level 100, that's what kept me playing, was trying other builds. But by nerfing it, you're just undermining your development process. By everything you said to us, now you're saying, well, nah, y'all are right. We're gonna walk that back. And that's what I mean, is that it feels like they're not sticking to their guns, and maybe it's because they're getting enough feedback from everywhere that they're deciding that, right? But I mean, if you look at any of the trailers, commercials, developer updates, all this stuff, the whole idea of Diablo 4 was play your way. And by play your way, they mean which Nightmare Sigil do you want to run? Because if you want to do anything that isn't that, you're penalized. And that's what I mean, is there's so many elements that they went into this game, that I went into this game with expectations of, okay, here's what we're going to do, here's what I need to, whatever. That a lot of that is just shifting so rapidly over such a short period of time. And again, like going back to the live stream, they came out and said the patch was bad. I don't think they should have said that. I don't think the patch was bad. I think it was necessary. I think the nerfs needed to happen. Again, the Nightmare Sigil stuff should have been included with it. right? The squish part of it should have been included with it, and the parts that's coming for Sork and Barb probably should have came with it too. And if they had delayed the season a week or two, I don't know how it would have been a problem, except for from the shareholder or revenue end. Maybe that's again a side that I don't know. And I assume that that's what it is, right? Because if you think about the timelines for them to get the season in the fiscal years, or in the fiscal months specifically, then they're going to have to kind of keep to a strict timeline. And I think that you're right. I think that season 1 was a little rushed, but I don't think it's fair to say it's done yet. I want to see what they say on Friday with the new live stream changes. I want to see what the patch actually looks like. But I swear to fucking God, if they buff Charge Volt by another 10%, I'm just gonna fucking throw something. Like why? Yeah. But you know what? Next podcast, I think we'll have a better idea of whether the season's done or not. I will tell you too. There's also interactions that we just haven't fully explored yet, right? I mean, the blasters are at 100 or close to 100, and there's a lot of stuff being through. But there's a lot. I mean, like even like the hardcore theory crafters have a lot of work to do to figure out what's working with what. Like I play a lot of Sork, right? Y'all know this. Like that's like my class. I play it all the time, right? I didn't fucking think about the fact that Blizzard's a damage over time effect.
Oh, yeah.
So now think about creeping death and how that can apply. You see what I'm saying? So like, there's a lot of interactions that like haven't fully been fleshed out or discovered yet.
Well,
so
I know,
let's see how it plays. You know?
Yeah, I know that was one thing. I was actually watching Kriparian, while he was going through like theory crafting like the Necromancer, and there's like some things like particularly with the Minion Necromancer. It's funny because like a Minion Necromancer is like broken on like certain levels, not in a good way. Because like the way that things scale, from what his testing, like if it says like increases minion attack speed, all necro minions get 30% of your stats. So if you get 15% attack speed, they only get 5. It will say like, increases minion attack speed by 15%. When he was going through and testing it, he said that was also getting nerfed down to 30%. So instead of getting 15% minion attack speed, he's getting 5% minion attack speed.
Yeah.
And so there's like a lot of like wonky interactions and stuff like that.
Well,
and it's because
just aren't working. Yeah, tooltips just aren't working. Yeah.
But it's like one of those ones where it's like, but like the big theory crafters and such are like, they're going like Crip is playing something that he wants to play and wants to have fun with, whereas other people are going through and they're just trying to like knock out what is the best, because obviously all the YouTubers, all the big guide sites and such, they have to have the best build in existence because that's what's going to get the clicks. Because people aren't searching for yada XYZ. I'm best necromancer build, and so they have to have that, and that's what they're going to try to find. Yeah. And so but what's outside of like the top 3? What's the 5th best build? Unfortunately, you playing like the sorcerer. Like the 5th best necromancer build can still clear Echo of Lilith or something like that. But it's just there's definitely a lot to be explored out there, and a lot of interactions that aren't understood.
Yeah. So while I think it's fair to say that the start feels a little underwhelming, it is the first season. They're gonna learn a lot from this process, I believe. And again, we have another half of the patch still coming. So let's see what happens. But next episode, I think we'll have a better idea.
I think having spent a lot of time in Path of Exile, this is a process that does play out pretty frequently. That you get your league going, and the league feels good 3 weeks in. It does not feel good at first. But I will say, Path of Exile League does have a little bit more depth. The what we have right now with the hearts, it's just it's
pretty shallow.
very exactly. It is very shallow. And I hope as we get into season 2, eventually, it's a much more robust season, and it should be with time. Like as you were kind of talking before about like what the end game boils down to. Hopefully with the next season, it's additive of like, no, you have season 2 mechanic, you have nightmare dungeons. And then, down the road, you've got season 2 mechanic, season 3 mechanic, season 4 mechanic, nightmare dungeons. That's the dream, right? Where you have multiple avenues to kind of go and play. I'm always just kind of hopeful that season 1 was going to have that of like, oh, like these malignant tunnels, That's the mechanic. You've got your nightmare dungeons over here, you got your malignant tunnels here, and
But by the
those are
way,
your
I
options.
can't. I can't hear Malignant Tunnel anymore. And that was an unintended consequence that I did not anticipate. But every time someone says that now,
Or I can't even say it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know what you're
like,
thinking.
I just
Yeah.
I can't do it. I do
Are
want to.
you thinking about Rod Ferguson's
Yes, yes,
colonoscopy
yes, yes.
visit?
The
Yeah.
colonoscopy. Yes, that's all I think about now is a colonoscopy. But no, I do want to say one thing about the seasonal quest line thing. It's not huge, right? It's not like super long. I mean, it's got some length to it. It's more than I anticipated it was going to be. I will say that I do, and I did enjoy it to a certain extent. I have my own questions about, well, gameplay trumps lore, right? So there's just some questions
Yeah.
it raises, especially with the whole Zachram thing and all that. But I will say that like there was a little more in the quest line than I anticipated getting, especially in season one, right? So I do think that was a little bit of a win, and I think Corbin's a cool character. I'd like to see him, be
Yeah.
more active and come back and do more. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, sorry.
I agree. I was actually I was very entertained with how much like story content that we got from it.
And the whole
Because they
Marshawn and all that, yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah, because they originally had said, oh, there'll be like a seasonal storyline, and then they immediately were all like, it's not going to be a
Yeah,
lot. It's not, it's just kind of like to explain like the seasonal mechanic, and yet we got it's a decent like playthrough experience. It's like a couple
yeah.
of dungeons, like a couple boss encounters and such that it
It,
felt
it's
fun.
about it's about like an act quest, right? Like it's not like a whole act
Yeah,
worth of story, but it's like one of the quest lines in an act worth of story, which
like
shocked me. I
rebuilding the
didn't,
Soul Stone. Yeah,
yeah, I didn't
yeah,
expect it to be as much as it is, right? Maybe that's
yeah.
me just setting expectations that were pretty low, but it was good. And again, I don't think that the season is bad. It's just yeah, it's underwhelming. But I mean, I played Diablo 2 seasons, which were just reset button. So whatever, like it's fine. I don't always need crazy mechanics. Again, I could have played the regular game for another 6 months without having a season and still enjoyed it. So, um, we haven't got to the battle pass yet.
Oh no, we're going.
I will. I do want to say one thing. As we're talking about like season two and such, that I already know because I see this like in the Warhammer community and such when like the new codexes or the new army books come out and everything like that, and a lot of the way that the community reacts to things that they like and they don't like, especially when there's sequential releases, and especially with the way that the development is divided between the seasons for Diablo 4. I think that is actually even more. Well, it's very important that they land season two, and give us something with a little bit more a little bit more meat to it. But they also have to land season three equally as important because season one is the Irvine team and season two is the Albany team. And if they go through and season one is not really impressing anybody. If season two is a banger and then season three isn't as good, then everybody's going to be like, oh, well, I'll wait for
Every
every
other
even
season.
I'll wait
Yeah,
for every other season because I don't like this, and then
I
it's
hadn't
going to
thought
start
about
the
that.
whole it's going to start. It's I deal with too much negativity in my life. I just I assume that it's going to come. Um, that it's one of those ones that I'm already expecting the posts to come out in season two with the compare and contrast between the two different development teams.
Well, I don't think the Diablo community is that reactive at all. So I think you should be fine. Um, Speaking of reactive, we have the beautiful transition to season one's battle pass. This is the first battle pass that I've ever really interacted with. So as a battle pass virgin, I don't feel like I can provide a real critique. I can give really more of like my experience with it, and like it seems okay. There's been nothing to me where I'm just like, oh wow, this is such a fun process. Um, but that's just me. You both have far more experience on this. I'm curious more how you've been interacting with the Battle Pass, and since we've all got the fancy one, what have your thoughts been?
I have three things in no particular order. The smoldering ashes need to be claimable without going back in the tiers, because like I'm in the 70s in the battle pass and I'm having to go back to like tier like 30 to like get like the level 52 ash. And I think that I didn't even claim it till I was like 56 because I had just completely forgotten. And
Yep.
so I had to go, and it is a hassle of having to
Yep.
go back, find it, click it, and then reassign it. That
Yep.
process definitely needs a UX passover. That needs some improvements. The second thing is the like I understand it's a business, it's trying to make money, so even though that the industry standard is that it gives you enough currency to buy the next battle pass, they're deciding not to do it. The amount of platinum that you get from the battle pass should at least be able to buy something in the shop, which right now it can't.
Yeah.
You get 666, which is nice, great, funny. It's a meme. I get it, but the cheapest thing in your shop costs 800. So that 666 is meaningless until next season. So that definitely should be addressed. I'm not saying that you have to make it. It probably, even though again, I'll point out industry standard kind of is that the battle passes are, self-replicating. But if you should at least give you enough platinum to buy something in the shop. Start coming, reduce the 800 platinum cosmetics down to 666. Hey, it's funny meme number, that you can go through and do that. Whatever it takes, it should be able to afford you something without having to stack it across multiple battle passes. And then the third one, I understand in like one of the developer comment or one of the developer campfire sessions, they had said that the free one is that they were wanting to go through and introduce some like role playing elements and that there'll be like some role playing transmogs and such. Sure, okay, but if you compare the free battle pass transmog to the paid battle pass transmog, it is a night and day difference. The free one looks like ass, especially if you're playing a rogue. Um, and
Don't talk to me
no,
about
no,
transmogs
no.
looking like ass as a
No,
Yeah.
you
male sorcerer.
Well, I'm just saying the rogue transmog looks like ass for a
as you can see
positive
it.
way because it got cake. But
Okay.
it
Okay.
yeah, but
Different.
it's just it's a joke, funny, haha. We explained it, so we killed it. But it is the free transmog compared to the battle pass transmog, they do not compare, and it's definitely one of those ones that going through and looking at it, and even I, notable Blizzard chill, paid fanboy or sorry, paid actor and fanboy, look at it and say, you guys missed the mark on this one. You could have done something a little bit better for the free pass, even if you're going for the we want to do like an RP element or something like that. That it's like that you could have done something better. It does not. It really does not hold up to what you get on the premium side.
Um,
That's what I got to say.
I will completely agree with everything he said and just echo it with it's the worst battle pass I've ever experienced. It's really fucking bad. It's really fucking bad. The UI is terrible. Immortals UI is better. It looks better. It feels better. It's less clunky. And then you have the whole premium tier skip nightmare that just auto does it as soon as you redeem it, right? So I didn't want to use it right away. I wanted to use it for like the later levels possibly, but just immediately jumped me to whatever. And I didn't give me some like agency over that. I think would have been nice. They typically have some agency there. You're right about
I
the currency; it doesn't give you enough to buy anything from the shop.
I had
I
the exact same thing happen to me where I was like activate. I was like, oh yeah, I want to activate it because I want to do it, and all of a sudden it just moved
it
20
just did it,
spaces.
yeah. And I'm like,
I was
no, that's
like,
not what I wanted to activate. I wanted to activate the pass, not the whole. Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
I was blown away. I thought
Yeah.
I messed
Which
up
they are
to
actually looking at that though. They're going to be fixing that, and also the auto like when you click to buy or whatever, like it auto like goes through without like any sort of confirmation. I guess that's a problem that they're looking at. I guess too, which is a whole
I
different
think
thing.
I think it's especially on console that,
Yeah.
or if you're
Oh,
using a controller, it because it's like the top clickable button, it auto focuses to that. So if you're just
yep.
because you do have to click through a
A bunch
couple
of
of
menus.
buttons in order to go through and get there, that if you're just one click away, and then all of a sudden, oh, hey, guess what? You bought the battle pass. Congratulations.
Well, it's my problem with Battle Pass, and this is again from the retail side. Again, I work in gaming retail. I know I've talked about that a lot. It is fucked. And I say that it's fucked because it trains your brain to go into a menu and click a box to redeem a thing, right? Battle passes that are successful unlock. You do a thing, boom, on the screen. Hey, you got this thing. Cool, move on, right? When they want you to go into those menus and click a thing, it trains your brain to be comfortable going in and doing that, which reduces your resistance to going in and buying said things as well too. It's very psychological, and it's definitely an industry trick that works. But when you've got games like Apex Legends that are like funded by they're free to play games that are funded by battle passes, and they aren't even doing that. That's insane. This is a $70 game minimum, right? That has a battle pass that doesn't give the currency to reward a free battle pass. So that means you're going to buy a battle pass every quarter. My stance on this has completely changed as we talked before, because I had talked before about how like I'm always gonna fund Diablo. With I am actually like not fucking touching battle passes moving forward until it changes, like at all. Um, One, I don't like being in a party where we all look the fucking same right now. Like I'm playing with a Barb, and like I think that the transmog set is actually pretty decent, like the premium one, the Cold Iron set,
Yeah,
whatever it looks pretty
looks
cool.
awesome.
But when
Yeah.
you're in a party with four people that have the battle pass, we all just look like a fucking like we're a fucking like a baseball team now. It's way fucking weird. And then it doesn't really look different between the classes, which I mean probably isn't a problem, but I just like I agree with Nine. I don't think it's well executed at all. Now I think that they could easily fix it.
Yeah.
Make it to where they automatically unlock. Like, okay, I hit level was it 40 and I get the ashes right away. I don't have to go into a menu and click a thing. It
But
just says, hey, you got
yeah,
your ashes. Cool. And it pulls up the thing and I just
I
click a thing and I'm done.
I should
Yeah.
just be able to go into the boons or the urns or whatever it's called. I
Yeah.
should just be able to go into that menu and
Yep.
immediately assign the ash that I earned like 20 levels ago. I just
Yeah.
couldn't use it
Because you
until I
blown
hit
past
this.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So
no,
I think
I
like it's like I'm,
oh,
I'm
sorry.
level like I said I'm like level 56, and I think I just like unlocked like the one that unlocked like the level 84 or 86 one. And it's
Yeah,
just
that's
like
where I'm at too. Yeah.
I'm gonna forget it. You know.
I'll be done with the battle pass in a couple days. And yeah, I agree. I think that but honestly, like if we really think about the development of Diablo 4 and through the betas and everything, like UI has been a constant problem, right? The homogenization of the UI in general, the items all looking the same, all being the same size, like all these little things, right, aren't all a big deal, but it really adds into like I really feel like the UI team has dropped the ball in this game in general, and it really shows through in the battle pass. Now again, they could fix these things. It might take some time, but they could fix these things. But right now, I think the battle pass is pretty trash. I don't know why it's 100 levels. There's no need for it to be 100 levels. Like it could very easily be 40 levels, and just combine some of these things into one bucket. But like going through every time, it's and you have to go click and claim is just mental to me. Like I've played tons of other games with battle passes. You don't have to do that. You unlock it and it just boom. Here you go. You got a thing. Hell, you got another thing. Hey, so it's rewarding
And
you for playing.
And you have to click and claim every
Yeah,
piece. There's not even a
every
claim all.
single every one of them. So it's not great. Now, mind you, again, like I believe some of this stuff is known. I know they've already talked a little bit about some of this, so I'm sure they're looking at it, right? Because this is, again, in my opinion, this is us beta testing the season, right? The season pass specifically. Like, I very firmly believe that this is the actual beta. But again, that's how live service games typically go. I just think that, again, I said this on the last podcast, but like the longer I play Diablo 4, the more I start to see the Matrix, right? I'm starting to read the game in the Matrix, and I'm really sitting there going like, man, this game really could have used about another minimum 12 months of development time before it really launched. I still think it's a fun product. I'm playing the shit out of it. I'm going to keep playing the shit out of it. But yeah, my stance on the Battle Pass has definitely changed. I'm not going to touch it until it's a little better. Because right now I feel shitty. Like I feel shitty having it and messing with it. And I've never felt that way before because I don't care. It's whatever. I'm not poor. I have money. I'll buy a thing if I want to buy a thing. But here we are, and it just feels really clunky. And again, they could easily fix and change some things with it, but it looks like shit. I think some of the transmogs are good. Oh, I was gonna say the free transmog. You're talking about the red outfit, right? The red shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
I actually like it, and the reason why I say I like it is because it's. Well, I say I like it. I don't like it in the sense that I'm wearing it or using it at all, but I like the idea that there's like a it's like a non-serious. I say that it's not a transmog so much as like an RP thing, right? Like it's like a.
And I mean that's what they said. That's what the intention for it was. And I mean, it definitely I can go through and feel that, but it's definitely one of those things that it's
It
like
looks
I
like
think
shit
it's going to be.
compared to the yeah.
I think that there are people that are going to make use of it. Most people that are playing a female rogue. But then also it's one of those ones where it's just like
I have pants now, bro. This is the first pair of pants that a male sort can wear. Is those pants?
Congratulations!
I'm fucking hyped. Are you kidding me? So that's all I wanted was pants. I just wanted to not be a cross-dressing male sorcerer or male sorcerer. But here we are. Mind you, I have nothing against cross-dressing. I just didn't want to do it in Diablo 4. So now I can wear pants, and I'm very into it. So yeah, I'm excited about that. And you can still dye it, right? So I can change the colors to match like a different setup or something I've got going on. So yeah, I think that's fine. But I do think that you're right. Like the difference between the free and the premium is insane. But honestly,
I don't think that I want to say that probably the majority. I'm not even going to put a number on it. I'll just say the majority of the Diablo 4 player base isn't really going to be using this game as an avenue in order to roleplay.
Right.
And so I think that those items and such, by all means, create them, serve those customers and such. That there are people out there that I'm sure that will use it and they'll do. I can't wait for the machinima, to go through and come out with people create little cool videos, and that's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely is one of those ones where it's like that could have been item drops, because that's how World of Warcraft generally does it, is that they'll put in those specific transmog pieces, but they'll be item drops for things you can buy from the vendor as they go through and they add it, but not as something that is the battle pass. And so that, because it is directly competing with the cold iron and the awoken cold iron sets, which look amazing.
They do.
I have no complaints there, but it's just if you're gonna sell the battle pass, try to at least have a set goal. If it didn't have both the cold iron and the awoken cold iron, and it was a role play set, a premium role play set, and then the cold iron at the very top end, I'd be fine with that. That would be cool. Because at least then you're adding a little bit more parity to it. But it definitely is just, it's when you look at the two side by side, it doesn't feel right. Even though I know that they had specific intended goals, I don't know.
And I'm gonna toss this out there too, not as a conversation point or whatever, because I don't know what y'all's thoughts are, but I just want to say it out loud. The prices on the shop are fucking insane. They're actually kind of fucking crazy how expensive some of these skins and back pieces are. Fuck, dude. Really, even if I found a skin that's really good, that price would have to be half as much as it is for me to even consider it. Because paying $25 for a fucking skin right now is dude, what? What are we talking about here?
I honestly was one of those ones. I was expecting something around $10 or $15 for the skins, to be honest. And so when they went through and they came out, because it's not even just a $25 skin, it's a $25 skin with an $8 add-on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because like the favorite set that I have that I got so far was the one with like kind of like the bloodied fallen hood with kind of like little
Yeah.
samurai shoulders. I don't even remember what it was. I actually really like that set. I went through, I got it as I was leveling my alt, the blood necro, and I felt it was like thematic and such. But then because it's not the $25 skin, it doesn't have like the back add-on to buy for the cosmetic. And I probably, if you had offered me like that $8 like thing and have like another like a bloodied like samurai like like clan banner on their back with like the it usually also has like the headstone. I'm sure Xanth loves the headstone
That's
transmogs that you can
rude.
purchase.
That's
Uh,
rude.
you know, I
That's
got
the
to. I got to. But
Oh
I
man.
probably would have done it, but they only do it for the expensive ones.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's like so. I don't know. Maybe make those 666 platinum, so you
Right?
can buy the cosmetic
Buy a
pack
little
for the
back
cheap
piece, yeah.
skins, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answers to all that stuff, but I have even the skins that I've looked on there have been good. Now, mind you, again, as someone I was playing a male Sork. I've now abandoned that. It's very similar to Diablo 3. Yes, I started with a male Sork, and just the animations were so inferior and so trash compared to the female Sork that I just swapped and went female Sork forever. Diablo 4 is meant for you to play a female Sork, and that is obvious by all of the free the nipple transmogs that come out. Because every fucking like transmog just has a dress and then open chest until the free battle pass stuff. So, um, I'm just now female Sork forever. Like that's just the way it's gonna be, unless they just drastically change some of that stuff. But like they've actually added some cool new skins, like the newer skins they added in, like the Mother's Mercy stuff that came down looked a lot cooler. But I'd look at it, I'm like, oh, you know what? I might actually buy these. And I looked at the price. I'm like, holy fuck, $25, bro? What the fuck? Like Baldur's Gate's coming out in a week. I might just wait and wait for the whole game.
Um, I think, kind of going back to like shop prices and the battle pass in general, I was very surprised, and I know you alluded to it, but just like I will do this whole battle pass, and I don't have enough currency, one for the season two, but to buy something on the shop. Like your goal is to get me to interact with the shop. I'm not gonna buy anything.
Not inspired, yeah.
Not like that. I'm what was kind of disappointing too, and I think the season set is really cool, right? The Cold Iron and then the Awakened Cold Iron. But really, it's the same set. I'm getting two of the same, essentially. There are marginal differences. I would have loved an opportunity to like, all right, we did the class agnostic set. Here's an opportunity now for you to use this to get one druid boot. And then later down the season, one druid chest or whatever class you want. Now you choose a class and take from the shop. Um, that would get me interacting with the shop. It would spice up my wardrobe, and then maybe um, I'd be wanting to buy something else down the road, or at least I would have something that was different, as you alluded to. Their words different than the rest of the party, who's all rocking the exact same skin. Um, I don't know. Hopefully, going forward, the next one's a little bit better. I'm still obviously going to go through and continue to slowly make my way through it. But yeah, could have been a little bit better.
It's tough. It's hard out here. I will say they can just keep all that shit exactly as it is, and just focus on like I don't know, fixing like the armor and resistance discrepancies in the game first. They can just focus on that. That'd be
season
amazing.
season it I, armor and well resistances are getting fixed in season three,
Two.
two, oh two. Hey,
Yep.
so there's that and Gem Jam. Oh, I'm gonna put this out there. This is my one gripe. I've been holding it for too long. Has nothing to do with the battle pass. Has nothing to do with patch notes. Has nothing to do with really anything we've talked about. But I got to go back to unlocking the Mystic while attaching it to unlocking aspects in dungeons. It's a bad system, especially when you have to go back and go
And
through
die
the
a lot.
process again from a hardcore. Is that if you do not have a dungeon that you can unlock an aspect, and right now it is fine because it's early in the season. I have not completed every dungeon in the game, but I'm going to. And then that means that every character I make after that will not be able to do it until level 25. And that just feels
Jeez.
it should happen when I complete a dungeon. Like that should be the process. It's already attached that way. You completed a dungeon, there's the
Give it to me.
aspect.
Give it to me.
You now can attach that to an item. But if you've completed every dungeon, that's not the case. And I brought this up in preseason, bringing it up again now for season 2. If you could fix that, because 1 to 25, when you cannot attach an aspect, sucks.
Um, can I want to give a public service announcement really quick since you brought up you call it the mystic. It's not the mystic. It's the occultist in this game, right? Same thing.
Occultist,
Yeah,
yes, yeah, you're all
cultists.
right.
Yeah.
I was making sure I wasn't mental there. Are you guys aware of the priority affixes system that isn't talked about in the game or by the development team at all, but exists completely when it
Heard
comes to
some
enchanting
rumblings.
specifically?
Yeah. I haven't. I've seen it discussed, but I don't know the system.
I'll give you an example, right?
We
So
need
just so
a Cliff Notes version because we are pushing just
I
a
know,
little late.
and by the way, I have a list of other things we didn't even get to, so I'll talk about it
I
later.
know.
But that's how it goes. But yeah, so basically the enchantment system in the game, it only shows 2 change stats or no change, right? 2 chat unlike Diablo 3, we had 3, and you also saw a list of all the different stats you could get as well too. By the way, we didn't talk about them inflating the stat pool on every item as well, which makes it harder to roll the items you want. There's a whole lot of fucking shit we didn't talk about that they fucked up, but basically there's a priority system, right? So I'll just give you an example with gloves. Attack speed and crit chance take priority, meaning that if you have a set of gloves that don't have attack speed or crit chance or both, when you enchant them, you are guaranteed to roll one of those, right? So let's say you're a character that really, really, really needs attack speed, right? And you rolled gloves that have crit chance, lucky hit, and whatever else, right? Well, if you enchant anything on that isn't the crit chance, you are guaranteed to get attack speed. Guaranteed. But let's say, for instance, you want +3 to charge bolt for whatever reason, right? But you don't have attack speed or critical hit chance on the gloves right now.
Ooh.
You won't get it, right? And you're going to spend hundreds of millions of gold before you even get a chance to get there because you only have 2 stat rolls. So you're going to get one of those priority affixes every time. So if you only get 2 changes to stats and you're guaranteed to get crit or attack speed in one of those, you have a 1 aspect or affix chance. Now think about that when rolling your amulet and how many affixes you can possibly get and how the priority system works. And this isn't fucking stated anywhere in the game. Now the good news is there's a fantastic resource that I cannot remember the name of. It exists on the internet, but there's a resource that allows you to basically sort out how much, or an estimate of how much it would cost you to reroll an item to get a specific stat you want. You basically plug in what the item is, what the item power is, what class you are, what stats it has currently, and what stat you're trying to get, and it'll tell you, oh, you're going to get that in probably the first 10 rolls, so probably spend less than 5 million gold. Right? Or this is going to cost you probably between 100 to 300 million gold because it's not a priority stat and you've already rolled priority stats on it, right? So it is important to know that. There's some very in-depth videos on YouTube I recommend checking out for sure. It was eye-opening for me as someone who is actually playing the shit out of this game. I didn't know about it until way too late, and I wish I had. It would have saved me a ton of gold when re-rolling items. But there is a priority affix system with enchanting on every piece of gear. No piece of gear is excluded that you should really take a look at before you decide on, okay, I want to go re-roll this piece, because it may not be worth the investment of money. You might want to wait and just find a slightly differently rolled piece that doesn't have those affixes to make it much simpler. Again, there are videos on YouTube, all kinds of stuff. I know, I'm pretty sure Macro and Woody both put out videos about it. So Woodijo and Macro Bio Boy, I would definitely look into their channels because they've got some cool stuff on it, I'm sure. Maxroll definitely has some stuff on it as well. But I would definitely just keep that in mind, everyone out there. Just a quick public service announcement. I wish I knew it sooner. Everyone should know that. And it's bullshit that it doesn't exist. And they haven't acknowledged it as a development team either. It'd be great to get some insight into like why that exists, but wasn't stated to anybody, so that we can make more informed decisions. And that really comes down to like a lot of the problems with Diablo 4 right now, despite the fun I'm having and how much I've enjoyed the game. There's just so much that the game lies to you about. From your tooltips to your extended stats menu, just things that aren't working the way they're supposed to, or the way they're intended to, or the way that you intuit that they will work. That I'm really excited to see when those things are fixed and how much better the gaming experience will be. But there's a lot of misinformation in Diablo 4. The good news is there's a community of people that are deep diving these things every day, and a lot more is getting discovered. Stay active in the community. Sift through the vitriol and the toxicity, because there's good people out there that are trying to help each other for sure. But there's a lot of good information out there that you're not getting in the game. I promise you do some research and it'll be helpful for sure.
Nightball, do you have a tangent that you want to go on that's not attached to anything? Okay.
No, good.
Well, that's good. Okay. So just going back through my notes. I would say out of all the things we did well today, we discussed our recent play. Um, everybody did that really well. Then we meandered through the patch and dev stream, missed a lot there. So if you've made it through this podcast, you're like, man, they didn't really talk about much. Well, we got bogged down. We talked a lot about the stash. We didn't really get into our hopes for season two. We did discuss the season, and we did break down a little bit of our thoughts on the battle pass. So we have covered a lot, gentlemen. We just it's funny how much happens in a week that even with this amount of time, you can't you can't talk about it all. And um, a listener, viewer, I respect your time too much to make a 4 hour podcast. So some things will get dropped. We'll bring it back up. We will be going live next week with a special guest that we will talk about soon. So watch for that. But it's kind of big. So but it's nobody from the Diablo community because they're not going to come on here and talk to us. But it is somebody big. So you'll figure it out. Other than that, let's close it out as we always do with the moo, moo, moo.
Moo 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 moo.
Moo 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 moo.
Moo, moo.